What's up, friends? Ossipee people. Missed you this year. Was really sorry to not have the time out there with you guys, and it was a big loss for me. And hope you're doing okay where you are. I look forward to being able to gather with you all again in the future. Hopefully next year. In the meantime, I guess I'm going to teach you this tune. In lieu of a all camp tune that we all learn, there's the idea of teaching tunes that each of us, the teachers, individually love and are finding help us get through the time. And I chose a tune that I love. I've loved for a long time. It's a tune from a guitar player named Bill Frisell, and it's a simple tune. So hopefully it brings you a lot of joy. It's one that I always am happy to play. Sort of like Angelina Baker in that sense that there's always something new you can find to do with it, and it's pretty friendly, and hopefully you can always have fun with it. So this is a tune called Verona, and what's good about it? From the perspective of improvising, it's all diatonic, so that makes things easier. It's all in the key of D, so you can find yourself noodling away in the key of D and finding a lot of notes that will work. It's also not particularly fast, so for some people that would be a appealing selling point, I suppose. And as far as learning it, there's just 3 phrases. There are 3 melodic phrases. One thing to watch out for is that sometimes when a melodic phrase is repeated, the harmony changes, so the chords, of course, underlying that phrase may change. So it gives the phrase a new personality, which in its own, if you listen to that, that's an interesting lesson in its own. That, okay, here's this phrase with these chords. Same phrase, new chords, new effect. That's an important idea. Anyways, why don't we just get down to it and learn the tune. I'll teach you the tune and the melody and the chords, and then I'm going to swap to octave mandolin and just go through the changes for a while so you have something to jam with. So, Verona. And I'm going to play it down. It's an AABA form. That's always a good question. What's the form? That's probably the first question to ask. Just give it a listen and see if you can spot the 3 phrases. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. You know what I did was I switched octaves in the middle, which is a nice thing to do if you're soloing, but it's a less nice thing to do if you're teaching the tune. So let me do that again. So it goes 1, 2, 3. Here comes again. So some of you eagle-eared people could say, hey, you didn't play it the same every time. And yes, that is true. But that's okay. That's part of it, is that I think the melody in this tune exemplifies that idea of melodies sometimes aren't as exactingly specific as we might expect them to be. So there's basically, some parameters that we're going to try and stay in between. When playing playing this melody, and know that there's some ambiguity built into it, and that's all right. And maybe you can just exploit that. So the first phrase, we're in the key of D. Let's just listen to this first phrase a couple times. It starts on A, B, A, F sharp, D, A, B, D, and then here's one of those ambiguities that I just mentioned. The melody, I don't think Purcell exactly plays the D again, but he goes to a D chord like this. So something like that. You just kind of want to end up on a D chord. Obviously, on the mandolin, you could play A and D. On the fiddle, same thing. On the cello, same thing. On the guitar, there's certainly some convenient voicings for this. I can't think of them offhand, but they're there. It's a guitar tune, in fact. He's a guitar player, so it's definitely doable. So anyways, that first phrase, 1, 2, 3. Again. Let's do it again. So that's phrase 1. It goes from the D chord, D, G, D. And again. So that's phrase 1. Let's check out phrase 2. Phrase 2 starts with an anticipated quarter note, so it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. And again, this ambiguity thing I was referring to, that phrase is going to end on some version of an A chord. You could do, if you're playing the mandolin and the fiddle, you could slide up and go C sharp and A, or C sharp and E, or you could do A and E, or you could do none of those, or whatever you want. But the vibe is, it's this phrase, and then it lands on an A chord, and then it happens again, and it lands on a D chord. So that phrase happens twice. The first time it's against an E minor and G and then A chord, and the second time it's against a D, G, D. You can also look at the transcription. So that's our second phrase. Why don't we do it a couple times? I didn't spell out the notes yet. We got a G, anticipated G, F sharp, D, A, B, D, and then you could land on E if you like, or C sharp or whatever, but that A chord, and then again, and landing on a D chord. So those two phrases give us the A section. The B part is just one phrase. That's pretty handy. Why don't we just play through the A section a couple times? First phrase twice, second phrase twice. Know that the second phrase, though, of course, is modified in the way that it ends. So we got 1, 2, 3. That's our A section. The B section, for the fiddle and the mandolin, it lays out particularly well. It starts out laying well on the cello, and then you're just going to have to go up the neck a little bit. And it's written on the guitar, so it's should be reasonable. We're going to start with the F sharp, G, A, D, D, E, A. So F sharp and G are just one note, and then it's 2 A's, 2 D's, 2 E's, 2 A's. So all the notes after F sharp and G are doubled. sounds like this. 2, 3, 4. Let's do it again. 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. And that would be, if you play it 4 times, that's the length of the B part. So that's the whole B part in terms of the melody. Of course, there are chords to be concerned about, but if you're a plectralist, if you have a plectrum in your hand, start with an upstroke. 2, 3, up. Yeah. So that's the B part. Let's talk about the chords. It's gonna go E minor, G, F sharp minor, B minor, and it's gonna be at this fast. 2, 3, 4, E minor, G, F sharp minor, B minor, E minor, G, D, and that's half of the B part. So when chords are going that fast, you really want to find a voicing that you can maintain as many of the same notes, or the same shape, I guess is a better way of saying it. It's not going to be the same notes, but it's going to be finding a way of playing 2 or 3 chords in a row that uses a similar shape. That will help. So in this case, if you're playing on the fiddle or mandolin, I'm playing E, B, G, and that shape, you can move it up a minor third, so your first finger's on G and D, and then instead of having the minor third on top, if you raise that, you get G major, so that's a related shape. This is the minor version, this is the major version. Now if you go down a half step with your first finger and make it minor again, you get to F sharp minor, and then if you go across the strings, so stay in the same position, but just shift to next lower string with all your fingers, that same shape will give you B minor. So that can be handy. And now D. And again. So one thing that'll make it more interesting, this might be intuitive already, but in case it's not, and you can hear me doing it already, is that instead of always treating these chords as simply a chord that you must play with one attack or play all the notes at the same time, experiment with playing different patterns with your right hand. Stuff like that, where you can get some new mileage out of the same shape. So that's the whole tune. The chords on the A section. So we've got D, G, D, D, G, D, E minor, G, A. Now here's the one that we didn't mention yet. We're playing a D chord, but the melody is a G. So what you don't really want to do is play F sharp. So you might normally play D like this, but this note plus that note sound like this. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. In this situation, it doesn't work super great. So you might want to think about doing a D chord that doesn't have an F sharp. A D power chord or a D5 would be one way of expressing it. Or you could play a D sus, which is, instead of having F sharp, you play G. Every other note stays the same. You just replace the F sharp or the F sharps with G. So that's our tune. Why don't we play the whole tune down with the melody, and then I'll come back with the octave mandolin, and y'all can jam along with it. So from the top, 2, 1, 2, 3. last thing. It's not really a bluegrass groove, is it? To me, what it feels like is a 2-bar pattern where it's going. Maybe one defining characteristic of what I'm feeling it as the groove is that you really emphasize the second beat in the second bar. So you might go 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like that. So we got the melody. We just practiced it. Now I want you to play the melody on top of this. I'll play the octave mandolin, and I'll play it through once or twice, and you can practice soloing along with this. So how about 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right, Verona. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you get some mileage out of it. Look forward to seeing you next time. Yeah, take care.